So how would you define something that's like animated, perhaps like a cartoon or something like that? How could we go ahead, Noah?
It's drawn in sequence with multiple frames.
It's something that's broken down definitely into multiple sequences, into frames that goes in a certain sequence. Good. So it's broken down into parts, and there it just is broken down piece by piece, and there's a sequence, a specific order that goes with it. Okay. So we're going to make a GIF version of it, and let's think about what makes a GIF a GIF. When we're looking at some of these samples here, these are actually student ones at the top. So for example, let's look at the one with the bird here. What's the bird start out doing? Flying, and then it gets what at the ground? Gets the worm, and then it does what? Flies away. And when that part's over, what happens after that? It loops, it repeats, okay? Do you hear anything when you watch it? No. So a GIF has like no sound, and it's going to repeat a process. We're going to keep ours relatively simple. So it's one action broken down. In our case, we'll break it down into like 10 to 15 parts. Okay? When you're looking at all of these, if I look at just this one, does the background change at any point during this project? No. For the most part, you're going to have like one part that doesn't change very much. So these were actually pretty nice examples we had from the past, which are cool. I love this one. This is my fave if you ever watched Arrested Development, where he just comes in and he just collapses on the ground. I think it's so funny. Same story though. He comes in, he falls, and then he's back up and he falls again. And that's part of what makes them funny too, when it just keeps repeating. The cool part about Photoshop is that you could go in and you could adjust the speed of your Giphy too, which is really helpful. And that helps make it much more realistic too. All right, so scroll down a little bit. So each moment we consider like a frame. It's like each time something changes in the process of the project. I have a little example here of something we're going to work on today. I just drew it digitally, so it's big and on the board for you. But I'll hand it out to you in a worksheet form here. So all I have on my piece of paper is just 15 boxes. And they're labeled 1 through 15. So this is like going to be your planning space for your project. You have to do a minimum of 10, maximum of 15 frames. So 15 kind of moments in your GIF is your max, 10 is your minimum. And this part isn't graded, but I want it more as like a reference sheet. Because like when it's the weekend and you come into the class next day, you're not going to remember. And if I'm helping someone else, I'm not going to remember your project from last time. So I had a little sample here of my own where I was working on like a firecracker getting lit. Okay. And then as time went on, the firecracker gets lit. This is each frame of it. And then what's starting to happen with my firecracker? It's going up in the sky. And then after that, it explodes into fireworks. So that's basically each frame, each moment of my GIF. And I broke it down into a very, very rough breakdown. So it's just a place to plan out like how each part is going to work out. So the key is like keep it like as simple as you can as you're working on it, which is nice. Like less is honestly more, which is good. Do we have any questions coming to mind so far? We also want to keep in mind there's like 2 ways you could approach it. You could do this strictly with pictures from the internet, like photos from the internet, or you could go in and you could draw them. So you don't have to make them fancy. You don't have to color it in. It would just be like black pen on white paper. And I would just have you draw each frame, and then I would scan it into the computer for you. And then you would animate it. The animating part takes maybe 3 minutes at best. So it's really making each frame, each box is like the part where most of the work goes into it. Okay? Like please don't use clips from like other GIFs or YouTube or things like that. And then you're welcome to make it funny. Just make sure it's school appropriate, of course. And it's a smaller little project, so it's only going to be 50 points, and we should be done with it by like next week. Yeah, we'll work on it most of next week is my plan. Okay. Oh, I have some samples on here from last year as well. I'm going to have you look at. So feel free to take some time to look at last year's GIFs on here. These are all students who were in graphic design 1. And you could see if they went the drawing route, they didn't have to go too crazy, just black on white paper. And for something that was digital, they just found pictures that they were able to cut out and they gradually moved them along in each frame. That's really the key to making like a solid GIF idea. Okay? You don't want to go too crazy. So feel free to flip through these for a little bit. I'm going to pass out the worksheet, and by the end of the period, I want you to have like a good idea of what you want to work on. You should start drawing on here, and then we'll put them in our folders at the end of the period. Okay? Do you have any questions so far? All right, cool.